This section of the policy discusses the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance, Article 4, Conditions of Employment. Overtime is calculated on the standard 7-day work week, which is Thursday through Wednesday. However, there are positions with the Sheriff's Office where overtime is calculated on a 28-day cycle versus a 7-day cycle. A department head must request approval from the county manager for any permanent adjustments to work hours for employees. As a condition of employment, it is expected that you will be punctual and at work on a regular basis. It is required that you notify your supervisor as soon as possible, but no later than 15 minutes after the start of a shift if you are going to be late or absent. However, please check with your department head or supervisor for the departmental standard operational procedures as it relates to calling in absent or late. If you are absent or tardy without approval, you may be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Again, be sure to contact your department head or supervisor for the call-in requirements because they may vary from department to department based on specific needs. Employees should not accept gifts, favors, or anything of value that may influence an employee in the discharge of duties. No official or an employee should grant any improper favors, service, or thing of value in the discharge of their duties. Gratuities of any type are also prohibited, and this includes but not limited to money, gift certificates, and meals. However, meals are acceptable only if there are at least 10 non-vendor people in attendance. Employees subject to the Hatch Act, Modernization Act of 2012 may not be candidates for elected office in a partisan election if their salary is paid for entirely by federal loans or grants. However, employees who are permitted to run for office are covered by the Hatch Act if the employee works in connection with a program financed in whole or in part by a federal loan or grant. A violation of this policy will be considered unacceptable personal conduct and may subject the employee to disciplinary action up to and including termination with no prior warnings. Employees may participate in civic organizations of a partisan or political nature, advocate and support principles and policies of civic or political organizations. However, no employee shall engage in political activity while on duty, use official authority or influence for purposes of affecting the results of an election or a nomination for office. Employees should not under any circumstances be required to contribute funds for political purposes as a condition of employment, continued employment, promotion, etc. Employee may not use county funds, supplies, or equipment for political purposes. The county's purchasing system to secure goods for private or personal use is also prohibited. Any secondary employment must be pre-approved by your department head prior to the work beginning. Outside employment is anything that an employee does for salaries, wages, or commission, as well as any type of self-employment. Outside employment forms will be made available to you in a separate section of this training, or you may obtain one from the Employee Self-Serve or the Human Resources Department. Employees are prohibited from using county equipment or resources for the execution of outside employment services. Employees are also prohibited from working a secondary job while absent from work with Iredell County. The intention of the nepotism and fraternization policy is to prevent the perception of favoritism among employees and to promote a harassment-free working environment. This policy prevents employment of close relatives, people dating, or otherwise involved in an intimate relationship between employees within the same department, shift, and/or unit unless recruitment difficulties exist. In that case, the exception would require county manager approval. This policy prevents any two members of an immediate family or intimate relationship to be employed within the same department if it should result in one supervising the other, or one has influence in employment decisions over the other. For purposes of this policy, immediate family is defined as an employee's spouse, parent, guardian, child, sibling, grandchild or grandparent, and other combinations of half, step, in-law, and adopted relationships. The policy also defines intimate relationships as a spouse, live-in, fiancé, boyfriend, or girlfriend, or a member of the same sex that are involved in an intimate relationship. Should a relationship develop between a manager or a supervisor and an employee, the manager is the one who is responsible for informing upper management of that relationship. If a relationship develops between two employees, either employee should report it to management immediately. Should the sheriff or register of deeds elect to hire a relative by blood or marriage of kinship closer than first cousins, the Board of Commissioners are required to approve that hire. Some resolutions to nepotism are separation of employment for one or both employees, transfer of one of the parties to another department, unit, or shift. The decision will be based on the needs of the department, and management will determine which resolution is best suited. The Finance Department has a detailed travel expense and reimbursement policy that may be located on the employee self-serve. As an overview, however, please know that county vehicles may be provided with the approval for certain personnel for county business. They may not be used for personal business. Any traveling for business must be authorized by your department head. If you travel in your personal vehicle for county purposes, you must produce a certificate of insurance. Should you travel in your personal vehicle, mileage reimbursement will also be paid. There are specific guidelines within the policy as it relates to lodging, meals, and other expenses. The travel policy, again, may be located on the employee self-serve.
Iredell County provides equal employment opportunities to all employees without unlawful regard to race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, age, disability, genetic information, marital status, or any other local laws. This policy also applies to all aspects of employment relationships, including but not limited to recruitment, hiring, compensation, promotion, demotion, transfer, disciplinary actions, layoff, recall, and termination. Employees are expected to comply with the county's EEO policy, and failure to do so may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. The county will have no tolerance for unlawful workplace harassment in the course of or in connection with employment. There will also be no tolerance for retaliation against an employee for filing a workplace harassment complaint. Retaliation occurs when there is adverse treatment because an individual files a complaint of workplace harassment. Types of prohibited harassment are verbal or physical conduct that creates a hostile work environment towards an individual because of their age, race, color, religion, gender, national origin, disability, genetic information, or sexual orientation. Examples of harassment include, but are not limited to, negative stereotyping, slurs, written or graphic material, threatening or intimidating or hostile acts which relates to a protected class. An employee who believes they are a victim of workplace harassment should report the complaint to any level of management to whom they are comfortable talking with. The departmental chain of command will not apply for any form of a harassment complaint. The victim should document specifics of the incidents, witness names, potential evidence, dates and times of incidents, etc. Also, write down any incidents that may occur after the initial complaint. An employee should notify the manager who handled the initial complaint if they believe they are retaliated against from filing the complaint. Management will prepare a report of the workplace harassment complaint and will begin the investigation promptly. The confidentiality and privacy of county employees and others involved will be maintained confidential to the extent practical and appropriate under the circumstances. All parties involved will be advised of the outcome of the investigation. This concludes the overview of Article 4, Conditions of Employment of the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance. Please note this presentation is not all-inclusive. It is your responsibility to read the policy in its entirety. The policy can be located on Employee Self-Service. Thank you.